Hello to everyone. Today we are going to have an excellent discussion on security strategies to fight newer threats in hybrid environment. The environment today is not at all homogeneous because you have the remote workforce distributed across the world. And also we have been working in multi-cloud environment like public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and even the edge computing already started. So the environment is pretty much hybrid. And in this scenario, I'm sure we need to have special focus on the various security policies, practices, the governance and strategies. So I am V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. I am the chairman and managing director for BT and BT, a consulting firm specialized in lean digital solutions. I am also the chairman for Smart Cities Working Group of IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology. So I would like to introduce today our esteemed panel one by one. So Ambrish Singh is a CISO for Flipkart. Thanks Ambrish for joining this very interesting discussion.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I have
Aman Shikara. He is a CEO for CyberSec Knights. Thanks, Aman, for joining this panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, VSR. My pleasure to be with all these gentlemen here on the session.
Thank you so much. So Milind Mungale, he is Executive Vice President and CISO, NSDL, E-Governance Infrastructure. Thanks Milind for joining this session.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for having me here. And I look forward to a very fruitful and intense discussion today because the topic is such.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm sure. So Mainak Biswas, he is a CISO, MK Global Financial Services. Welcome, Mainak.
Hi everyone. It's great to see the genius minds on one forum. Really looking forward for some really insightful and interesting discussions.
Right. I'm sure. Okay. I'm sure you have been experiencing a lot of challenges. It's not only just you. In general, I am talking about the organizations. Especially post-COVID, everybody's talking about distributed workforce. But the people who worked in the IT industry, the distributed workforce, the global distributed delivery model, or global delivery model is not new. But of course, there are new tools and technologies available today. But now it's becoming a norm, and especially in the gig economy. In the gig economy, we don't have the required expertise within. So we have to depend on the external experts. In that scenario, so the workforce is distributed and a lot of external experts are basically accessing your business resources and assets from different countries and different locations. So I would like to request everyone, probably start with Ambrish. What do you think the challenges you foresee in this globally distributed remote working environment?
Thank you for asking this question. So in my view, you are looking, your question is probably not what is happening today, it is about future looking. So probably we talk about two things which is could be a primary focus of every security security head in the organization or security folks. Is the first is from the data leakage perspective. Second is the malware infection perspective. Okay. So whatever we do today, whatever the activity we are doing, we need to ensure that who is accessing what access he has, and what kind of posture or device is coming from. That is the reason if you see in last 1 year, the concept of zero trust has been coined more than often than it was before. It was existing and in silos, so like Google, Akamai and all, they took a lot of steps, and now you see that a lot of product companies are coming up with those solves. Rather than it was in concept, right now they are putting this into a product kind of setup. Okay, so zero trust is still very far away, but that is where the companies are going towards, because they know that distributed environment will come. It has come, surprise everybody, and the company, those who had a fair amount of good, solid people, process, and technology in their security setup, they were able to navigate through this very quickly. Otherwise, the organization have struggled for some time, and then they started looking at what others are doing, and they did a bunch of things. So these are the two things I can just let you know.
The bounced back. Yeah, initially there was some struggle. Yes, agree. Yeah. So Aman, what do you say about this globally distributed environment, remote working and all. Like Amrish said, it's not new, but I think now that it got accelerated and new devices, new technologies got added. Complexity has gone up.
True. Very, very much true. And Amrish has rightly said, like industry was not ready to handle this kind of a change, and it was all just pushed down, and everyone had to adopt. There was no option for anyone. Now the biggest challenge that came was like while many of the IT companies, they were still adopted work from home kind of a model or remote workforce. They had the remote workforce. They had the technology and process in place. But when organizations which were not in favor of these kind of work modes, so when they had to adopt it, it all became a mess for them. Especially because now the user, they were using their own devices. The organization was not ready to ship their assets, and when they were using their own assets, it was altogether unmanaged assets accessing their whole infrastructure. There was a big hygiene problem. No one was aware what sort of a antivirus they are running on it, whether it's updated or not, patch systems are patched or not, who they are accessing from their home network, they're accessing from public Wi-Fi's. So it was all basic hygiene and the accessibility issues that the organization had to deal with. Now they had to adopt, they had to modify certain architecture to make the resources available to these remote workforces. Then again, the security controls were adopted, and there was no, you can say, a proper planning that went into that particular phase. Gradually, yes, as Amrish rightly said, that initially they went out in big bang manner. They just thought of like, we need to make the business running, and then they gradually started maturing it, starting implementing controls. And now the organizations are pretty much in a shape where they know the risk, they have identified it, a bit of it which has already been managed and a bit which yet to be managed. So we are in that kind of a stage. So yes, the larger challenges that came were from the malware space, then the data exfiltration, and also in terms of the credentials theft and system compromise, because now these workforce was not within the premise which already has a protected layer around it, and now they are out and wild, and the attackers were aggressively targeting it. If you see the stats during this COVID time, the attacks have increased exponentially, and these are the very weak workforce which could have been easily compromised.
Sure. Thank you, Aman. Milind, I think if you hear from Aman or Amrish, so I think initially it was slow, but after that it got accelerated, but still it is a long way to go. What are all the strategies and practices in the last 1 year you think newly implemented to take care of these security issues which were not there? I think like Aman said, it was protected in the past. Maybe in the traditional industries, remote working was not that known. Maybe in some of the knowledge intensive industries, it might be known, right? So what do you think the different security policies, practices, software, hardware they brought in to encourage this remote and distributed working environment?
I think as both of them called out, it was something which was not a part of the traditional work environment in our country at least. And as you called it out, very few organizations had mentally adopted to the culture of work from home. A year back, during the same time, we are on 6th, 7th of March, if anyone would have gone and talked to their management that let us have half of our staff working from home, I am sure it would have been treated as a joke within the organization. And that's something which is the fact. But today, each and every management has also mentally reconciled that if business has to work, it has to be work from home. You can't insist on working from office. But what has happened in last 1 year is because of this compulsion, I would say, because it was not a thought of and planned exercise, because of this compulsion, I would say, it is something where a lot of other ecosystem players came together. For example, work from home has seen suddenly a lot of activities within training and development department. Why? Because suddenly the IT and IT security department felt that people are logging in from home, but they don't have that kind of an awareness. They still are working as if they are working on the local LAN, and they are still that casual as they were in the local LAN, because local LAN all said and done was a fortified thing. To some extent, local LAN is fortified, and suddenly you come all over. It's like you're roaming about in the home. You can walk anywhere, anyhow. But if you are walking on the road, you have to think about the traffic. Otherwise, you risk yourself. The same thing happened when it comes to talking about the internet highway. When you are on the land, you can go from anywhere to anywhere. And if you are going in the wrong place, obviously there will be someone to stop you. But when you are on the internet, unless and until you don't come to the company's gates, it is not possible for anyone to know what are you doing over there. And that is the reason why awareness was something which was required. The second most important thing, which was the core of this whole work from home, was suddenly everyone required a secure practices and secure solutions to connect to the network. So I think VPN, the kind of implementations of VPN has happened, the kind of upgrades to the equipment and the technology has happened, or the kind of support system that was developed for people to get enabled on VPN and continue to help them on VPN to operate smoothly has gone up substantially in this last 1 year. If you ask me from security solutions point of view, I don't know how many people moved from antivirus to EDR during this 1 year, because frankly speaking, that is something which is a big decision. Anyone would think, whatever is the situation, anyone would think my subscription to antivirus is there still for another 6 months. Why should I rush into an EDR? Let that get over. No one would think that because of remote working, suddenly EDR is more important. And now, even before people adopted EDR, XDR has come, people are that much more confused. Even when you tell the end users that I want to remove your antivirus and put EDR, he wants to know what is EDR. And when you explain him, he says, oh, it is another kind of antivirus. So that is the kind of a situation which is there. And to give a one sentence answer to what you have asked, yes, training has gone up, awareness sessions have increased, and casualness of attending the awareness session. Many of the organizations in the past, when the training would be scheduled, people would think that it is something which company wants to give a break from the work. But now, if they don't attend the training, mails are going to them, justification is asked as to why you are not attending the training. And VPN infrastructure has been upgraded, new VPN infrastructure has been set up, and those who could not do a capital expenditure, I think they went in for cloud-based connectivity using cloud-based VPN and all that.
Okay.
So that's a thing which I am able to say now, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point you raised. I think training in the past, we used to have vacant places. Not many people attend. Everybody say 98% I'm busy in my regular work. Today is a life and death. I cannot compromise any security, right?
Yes.
We are gone. So I think it is becoming mandatory. Like you said, different tools got implemented and all. I'm sure the training will continue. It's not like one-time activity. It is a regular, and probably this trend and pattern may continue because the hackers are very intelligent than us, so they do so many innovations. So we have to be ready for
Not
that.
only that,
So
slowly training will become a compulsory part of many regulations, and then there will be mandates and there will be evidences which have to be captured. So entire ecosystem will fall in place to bring in that seriousness into this aspect.
Wow, that's good. So regulatory means, I think, yeah, we have to comply. So of course, we have to also improve the quality. It's not only quantity. The organizations have to have that learning commitment. Thank you so much. Mainak, can you please also share some of your thoughts on continuing to the other panel speakers? So what do you think the last 1 year or prior to that or in future, you think remote working, distributed workforces, what security threats will be there, what precautions to be taken in our view?
Working from home or remote working or teleworking was there in the organizations. It's just that it was majorly, it was not uniform. Okay, like for financial houses like us, we never thought that there was a time when broking people would have to be sitting at home and running the business. Okay, for us it's like 9 to 5, market opens and we have to rush, we have to book. Okay, now that was a serious technological dependency what we were having, and having this technological dependency over remote access was something a nightmare. Okay, now here if you understand, a simple terminal, calling a terminal server requires those ports to be open which are itself vulnerable. Okay, now within the land, within the organization, yes, there was control. We used to control it. But when now the profits, the shares, the entire broking stuff happening over the internet, sitting in the homes or sitting wherever, we cannot control it. So that there is some, so the acceptance of the risk, okay, the acceptance of the risk, I feel, has increased. Okay, business has to convince themselves that we have to accept some categories of risks. Okay, we cannot say that, hey, we have to be 100% secure. So there is no 100% secure formula right now. It's just a business should continue. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing, privacy over confidentiality. So when before that the data was confidential much than being a private. Today it is different. Today data is private than being confidential. The reason is very simple, that today people are accessing data from anonymous regions. Okay, by quoting a word that it is a business requirement. Organizations cannot hold them to access the data because that is the need. How much
Right.
relevant, how much not relevant, that is a different thing. Organization cannot have that hold to the person that, hey, you cannot access the data. That's the need. Okay, so the granularity level the governance is a major hit, which I felt in this entire lockdown period. Even today, the governance is a major hit. Although companies have invested a lot in taking those work from home solutions and everything, but at the same point of time, you cannot actually control a person. You cannot control a person because these solutions are internal to your system. Okay,
Right.
internal to your system. And when I'm accessing from internet to the internal to your system, the system doesn't know who am I.
Yes.
So there,
Right.
the administrator has put an only any to any rule into the firewall, saying that anybody coming must get everything what he wants.
Thank you so much. I think you brought out very important points like governance and the risk
Yeah.
appetite. That means the maybe the role of chief risk officer must be integrated with the CISO, making sure that proactively identifying the risks and mitigation plans to be there. Privacy versus confidentiality. All these are, I think, I'm sure a lot of focus has come in the last probably one plus year. Thank you so much. Aman, you raised a very important point. On the security threats have gone up during COVID-19. So continuing that, I will ask Amrish. I think Flipkart, into the more and more the consumer intensive industry. Can you share what are all the threats got increased? I mean, so many threats have been there. It's not like threats are new. But do you see any new threats, or do you see the volume of threats of the past have gone up or something like that during this COVID-19 period?
Sure. So probably if you talk about threat landscape of company like us, so that I can divide it into three buckets. One is the threat emerging from the employees. One is threat emerging from the partners, and third is the customers, what they are facing. Okay. So from an employee's perspective, we were always there because we have the something called kind of VPN solution where we do posture assessment and all. So no foreign device can connect to my VPN, in no chance, because we ensure that that machine is part of domain. It has got EDR, a bunch of other things. Okay. Secondly, coming to part of the partner ecosystem. In COVID, the threat landscape has gone very, very high because you talk about seller support, customer support. So most of their agents are working from home. And initially 3 months, probably all agents started working from their personal assets. So we need to bumble the security, talk to the partners, what they're doing about it, help them. Because see, every partner is not in a position to invest so much of money immediately into the security. So help them how they will achieve. So we help them probably look at the viable VDI solution, viable something called ECOPS solution. So these solutions provide the two major things. One is a lot of DLP controls around it. Okay, you can do whatever you want, and probably they can access. They cannot do anything other than somebody can take a photograph. Second thing is that malware proliferation. Even if somebody accessing something from his personal asset, and normally personal asset has got pirated operating system and no antivirus, etc. Correct? Even
Right.
if infection, that infection cannot come to my network because there is a logical segregation between his network and my network, between his VDI setup and my setup. There is a
But any threats you have seen in the upswing in the sense, yes, they cannot get into your internal network. But at
Yeah.
the same time, do you see the attempts where the type of threats have gone up? Which areas the threats have gone up? Any thoughts on that?
No, so what we have seen is, if you talk about from our organization perspective, we're not seeing any major spikes anywhere, because we already had some kind of concept. Whenever we engage with any partner, probably there is a logical segregation between two networks, and we do consistent basis assessment, on-site, off-site, everything we do. Okay. If we talk about industry perspective, the malware, talk about ransomware, the cyber criminals have also taken this advantage. Okay.
Right.
And
Okay.
the ransomware attack has gone multi-fold high. That's why, as Milind was saying, and the EDR solves. Every organization is now thinking about EDR. A lot of people have moved to EDR. A lot of people are moving to EDR. A lot of people are thinking about it.
Okay.
Because that is probably they're looking at this is the future, so why not invest in right technology?
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Amrish. Aman, I think, so you mentioned there is an increase in the threats. So I have two questions for you. One is what you observed, not just in one organization, you might have seen probably multiple organizations as a form. And the second one is, I'm sure now everybody is talking about the cloud computing in a different way. Okay, without multi-clouds, there is no way we can really take up the enterprise loads, because the loads have gone up tremendously from the past, right? So hybrid cloud, public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud. So with these two aspects, so what do you think you basically expect the organizations to improve their governance, their policies, or any new software and hardware need to be brought into the system in this multi-cloud environment, and also edge computing has come into picture now?
Yeah. Very much you have rightly said, like definitely in this COVID time, cloud has been a very supportive infrastructure for all these organizations to adopt in this difficult time. Definitely. Lot of companies have been forced to adopt cloud in this environment, and with variety of solutions running across, definitely a hybrid environment is what most of the organizations are right now running into. So in terms of, first you said that the kind of a threat, yes, malwares have increased significantly. Phishing has gone exponentially, because attackers, they know the people are on, you can say, unprotected assets. They have a weak security posture around, and the controls are not applicable to them in this kind of environment. So they have targeted them significantly, and especially in terms of like maybe providing emails in relation to COVID vaccine, maybe related to some sort of a best practices, maybe someone is trying to give a kind of education of a working from home environment, but actually they are dumping the malwares to them. So phishing attacks have gone exponentially high. And another thing that the advantage that these attackers took is the adoption of cloud. Now, when organizations moved into the cloud infrastructure, they were not ready for it. They didn't plan for it. They don't have the right governance. They don't have the right set of configuration, right set of a tool to run their infrastructure in that. But it was a kind of a forced acceptance. Now they started exploiting it, and that's where we saw increase in breaches or increase in attacks, and mostly it happens because of the misconfiguration. Now you rightly said, like organizations are running multi-cloud environment. So there are what are the basic challenge if we go with this kind of a model? There is a first challenge that comes from the architectural side. Like when we have an on-prem, we have designed a right architecture. We know what is lying where and how the things are communicating. But when we talk of multiple clouds, to bring a uniformity of control across the cloud, it is a challenge for any CISO. Then the different clouds have their different best practices. Unless and until you adopt to that, you will be at risk. The misconfiguration. See, people are talking of like cloud is a risky thing. But if you see, it is not because of the cloud service provider. The most of the breaches happens because of the misconfiguration that which is in the shared responsibility model. It is a responsibility of an organization to securely configure the cloud infrastructure, what we people are not doing. So that has caused a lot of problem. And then the third challenge comes from the governance space. Working in this heterogeneous environment, implementing right set of governance is again a big challenge. So in terms of how the if we talk of how the organizations can adopt it securely or how can mitigate these challenges, there has to be a unified strategy. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are thinking, like if I have to define a control, that has to go across the board. It should be implemented on the on-prem. It should be implemented on all the cloud premises. The best practices have to be adopted very seriously. And most significantly is the IAM. All about access management. Unless and until we define the right IAM policies, we define what resources can access what resource, how the communication can happen, and to what granular level they can access, will be in a deep mess.
Sure.
There are tools which can help us out here. So like CSPM is one thing that organizations can adopt, which can give them the visibility of misconfiguration or the open risk. CASB can be adopted, and SASE is something which is in talk these days and which organizations can adopt for a secure cloud adoption.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Aman. It was, I think it's wonderful. You brought out very important points like the architecture is very important. The configuration has to be very carefully done. It cannot be done just like that. But due to COVID-19, I think it got accelerated. Maybe my fear is that, like we call technology debt, there should not be a security debt. Maybe I'm not sure anybody uses that word or not till now. It's not like just simply you do it in a hurry with the quick fixes. Okay, let me do this, that and all. But don't create that security debt and have some other problems in future. So as you rightly said, configuration, strategy, governance, architecture, and the tools implementation, and especially in the multi-cloud environment, how you architect everything, the environment and everything is very, very key. Thank you so much, Aman. Now I'll come back to a very interesting topic. Now I think we have been hearing, unfortunately, in the today's hyper-connected era, we have fake news factories. What is new, what is really right, what is wrong, you don't know. And what we are talking, the video can be edited and make with deep fake technology something what we did not speak. So in that era, there are some rumors and something may be reality. I want to ask Milind. Milind, we heard that one of the rogue countries has hacked our Mumbai power grid, or the Kedarnath floods have happened because of some device. And all these things we have been hearing. All right. So, but it may not be true today, but what is the worry I have is, if my ports are intelligent, where I use IoT devices and make it artificial intelligence enabled ports, airports or seaports, whatever, or my physical infrastructure is instrumented and make it more intelligent, can be accessed from anywhere, anytime. And my whole physical infrastructure, ports and the hotel malls, movie theaters, if everything is intelligent, fortunately or unfortunately, we are not at that stage today. Maybe after 5 years, we may see that digital India, everything is connected. Then what is the guarantee that the other countries don't misuse that? So what are the precautions needs to be taken under this intelligent infrastructure, which we are going to really accelerate in the next 5 years? What security threats will be there? What a country and organizations have to do to overcome any crisis which they foresee?
Yeah, here it is basically what we must look at is that normally such kind of things happen in a rush. People want to adopt new technologies, people want to make digital India, smart cities, everything in a very fast pace. No one is saying that we will have digital India dream come true in next 20 years. They always want to make it happen in months or maybe in a matter of year. And the reason for that is definitely not because, I mean, of course, there is a reason that everyone should enjoy and have that comfort of digital India. But main reason, many a times if you think, and I don't know whether it is an appropriate word to use or not, but most of the motivation is political in nature. And most of the times, these kind of initiatives are taken more from the point of view of gaining political mileage while definitely doing good to the country or to the state or to the city or to the geography. And that is the reason why the things are rushed. Now, when you rush on certain things, what is the stage after rush? Like Aman also mentioned just now, things had to be put in a hurry. You also mentioned it. After rush, the stage that has to normally come is that of review. If you have not reviewed and implemented, and if you have implemented, then you have to review after that. But what normally and logically happens, the stage comes that of relax. Ho gaya. The work is over. The thing is, that is where I think that kind of mindset change has to happen. And that mindset change can come only and only by people. So as much as we talk of smart countries, smart cities, smart malls, smart multiplexes, smart markets, people have to be also smart. No? So that is where basically.
So like you said, we have to
comes
train
there.
them. We have to even train the citizens.
Yeah. So how do you make citizens smart? How do you make the users smart? How do you make the service providers smart? That is where the question comes.
Okay.
And if you look from fishing to whatever you said, rogue country trying to sabotage some kind of an very essential service in the country, that too, it's all hearsay. No one is coming out very clearly. Neither are they admitting, nor are they. In physical terrorism, what happens is there's always an organization or a body which is going public and taking responsibility of it. If there is some bombing happen, in 2 or 3 days, someone will come, maybe with a dark background and a dark face. You can't make out who's the person, but someone will come and assume responsibility. This is what I did. But in digital space, after doing everything, the one who does never comes forward or assumes responsibility that this is what I have done. And then again, the interpretation is based on what is suitability. For those whom it will be beneficial, they will call it out as an hacking job. Those who it will not be very suitable, they will say we have done all the investigation. It was a technical glitch. And what was the technical glitch? No one knows. So these are the kind of things which happen. So when you say that what happens with this smart, digital, everything kind of a thing, huge amount of IoT is installed everywhere for the benefit and the convenience of the people. They are themselves double-edged swords.
I think not just the organizations, even at the country level, the government of India and also the each state government have to look at whether they call it CISO or any security officer, whoever it is. The domain experts have to really take that precautions because day by day we are talking about so much of digitalization. Okay, thank you so much. Nowadays there is so many organizations are coming with security rate, then where you are, what strengths, what weakness, what to be filled in and all. So is it possible to quantify security rating of an organization or security quotient of an organization? How you can do that? Any thoughts on that?
Okay. So first of all, what I feel from 20 years of my experience, what I have understood is security cannot be quantified. First thing, because security cannot be generalized. That's one thing people have to understand. Okay, but I feel 10 things to make me secure may not, you may not agree to that. Okay, so security, as I feel, is totally personal in nature. Okay, the main objective is to secure what? Okay, so I might say information, I might to secure my employees' interest, I might to secure my stakeholders' interest, but security is personal to me. Okay, so when I judge, so as an auditor, I was an auditor before. So when as an auditor, when I used to audit 10 different companies of 10 different scales, okay, and score it in terms of security. Okay, so the main thing which I have understood is that alignment of the task to the business goal. Okay, the security goal. So every organization have thought something that, okay, I have to achieve this, okay, in terms of securing myself, my identity, and to achieve that, there will be 10 things which I'll be doing. My scoring would be on the basis of the alignment of those 10 of actionables towards reaching to the vision of the company.
If my business goals and alignment with the business goals of the security goals needs to happen, don't you think I should know where am I to reach and align with my business goals without me knowing what is my current state of security? I mean, you call it as a security rating or you call it as a security quotient, it doesn't matter. There is some amount of, I think, baselining is required. Where am I? And where I have to go based on my business goals.
No, correct. And I totally align with you. But give an example. Like if you are a process owner of an organization, okay, and I being risk officer, I come to ask you, like, what are your goals? Okay, how would you rate your actionables reaching to your goal. Okay, then every action, whatever, every stakeholder will have their particular job as a priority one job. Okay, so I as a CRO, how would I rate that overall alignment of the business goals? To arrive at certain baselining, baseline is nothing but understanding where the improvement can happen, where I am, where I should be, and what is the variance. That's the only three things, right?
Yes.
Where I am, okay, as a function owner, where I am, I never know where I am. I only know that my job is to continue the business of an organization which I'm doing.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Second thing, where I should be reaching. I don't know where I should be reaching. Where does the security says that where you should be going? What is 100? What is 1000? I don't know what is 100, what is 1000. My job is to reach to that level that none of my critical assets of the companies gets hacked. That is where I am.
It is very interesting. I would like to hear from others also. What are their thoughts? Because so my personal view. I mean, you are expert. Without knowing where am I, without knowing where I want to go, we may not be going in the direction, probably the destiny, what we want. Maybe I think it is better to have difference of opinion, but let us also listen from others.
Yeah, so in my view, I think it is important to know where are we today. So if you're talking, I think your question was how to measure that, right? So I think people have adopted, a lot of people have adopted the NIST cybersecurity assessment framework. Okay, so NIST assesses the organization from the more than 600 controls and is bucketized into the 5 pillars: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Okay, and it gives a lot of insights. Probably at times we might have missed it due to various priorities, various limitations, etc. It gives the very neutral view of where you stand today, and these 5 pillars: where are you standing today, what you are supposed to do to reach to a certain level. So NIST assessment is not rating something for your where are you today. It takes the maturity rating. It's a maturity rating. It's not the straightforward rating.
Right.
Suppose you say that you do not have, take example, do not have a DLP solution. Take example. And suppose you implement a DLP solution and if you say the guy who has done assessment, hey guys, I implemented DLP, can you improve the rating? He'll say no. Because you have to mature the DLP process. That process technology has to take it to a certain maturity. Now every people in the organization understand what is the importance of data leakage and what you guys are doing. What is the security is everyone's responsibility. So NIST assessment, what I can think of, it gives a lot of insights. It is one of the tool. Probably we can leverage this. People are leveraging it.
Okay.
And yeah, that is what I can say. People
Thank
have their own tool also in the organization to know where are we.
Right. So I think continuation to that, what do you think, how India is prepared for the data privacy law or data protection law? Very quickly, can you share 30 seconds, Amrish?
Sure. So I keep talking to people. See, privacy is the adopted concept from Western world in India. We were traditionally, if we talk about, we were never worried about privacy. Okay. So because you're so open, I talk about you travel in a train. Hardly we travel now. You travel in a train for one day, you'll come to know each other, everything about his family, his mobile number, where you work, what you do, everything we share, correct? It doesn't happen in foreign like that. So, but I think with the new generation and coming up and the importance of data going up, I think as citizen I also become more aware. You will just take the example of recent privacy policy of WhatsApp. A lot of people have moved to another channel. They have just resisted this very strongly. Even government of India has taken a note of this, and I think government is taking a lot of steps to ensure that the citizen data is protected. They have taken a lot of steps from a lot of platforms. I think probably our privacy data protection now bill, no more it's privacy bill. Data protection bill might see the light of the day sooner or later. I think we as organizations, we are on the journey of, on that journey, what could come. We know from the top perspective that, I give one example, like suppose you, I'm sure that you guys must be shopping from Flipkart, correct? And today you as a customer, you want that Flipkart should tell you that which of the places, with which of the partners Flipkart has shared your data. This should be available on click of the button.
Okay.
Second thing is that suppose you as a customer want that Flipkart should delete my all data. I don't want to. I'm not happy with Flipkart. Delete my data. It should be done within the specified time, and it should notify. This
But
kind of
most of the people don't know, Amrish. Even I don't know. Probably you need to start some education, all of us, how to maintain the data privacy in these forums, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Thank you so much. So, Milind, I want to ask you one question. Like nowadays, I think everybody is talking about everything software defined. Even when I am driving these smart cities, I am saying software defined smart cities. Now, software-defined networks are programmable networks within the organizations, outside the organizations, becoming a norm, and they are becoming more intelligent, okay, and can be hacked from anywhere. So, what are the security threats you see now, and you foresee what precautions to be taken in that space? Can you please quickly share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to talking from software defined, one thing we must remember is that it is a digital world and a physical world demarcation. So where you used to control the ports by connecting physical cables or connecting the physical connectors to it, now everything is within the software. So the people who were managing that physical network have to change their mindset and start thinking digital. If they configure the software defined network in the same manner that they have been configuring their physical network, I am sure there is going to be a catastrophe over there.
Right.
The second thing is that the compliance part is so heavy on the organizations nowadays that most of the people want to just live up to the compliance requirements. But when we talk of new technologies, when we talk of adopting new things, obviously we cannot simply live within the compliance lines. Most of the security and risk functions would always look at what is required to be compliant and are we complying or not. How many people think that compliance should be a byproduct of what they are doing and not the main goal of what they are doing? Instead, most of the time, people will say that. I mean, if I'm allowed to say, Amrish mentioned that whenever the DPA will come, the Data Protection Act, at that time, Flipkart would be required to give a lot of features to its customers. They will be
personalized.
yeah, after 10 years, I can ask Amrish, give me all the transactions that I have done on the Flipkart for last 10 years and share with me where all you have shared these transactions, where all you have kept it, where the backups are and all that. And Amrish will have to give me. Now, just imagine that if this is what he has to do and if he has to do it for millions of customers, then why do anyone require a technological solution to beat the business of Flipkart? I can simply, there are hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people who put such a request for 100 rupees in our country. And then whole time the IT and IT security will be busy in doing that. Who will support the business? What I am coming to is that as an outcome of it, they will go through the compliance requirements and they will put like WhatsApp, one agreement in front of me whenever I join and they will ask me to tick it. And using that agreement, they will tell me that you accepted that you will not exercise this right.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that that is what is the story of all the organizations. So there has to be a balance between compliance and doing things in spirit. If we do things in spirit, obviously there would not be a compulsion or a burden of compliance because compliance will be a byproduct of it. Coming back to your question, when it comes to talking about software defined, the scale at which the operations are growing and the scale at which people want this whole thing to work, businesses are no more going to wait to double for next 5 years. They want to double their business within a year. And if they want to double the business in a year and everything is digital, obviously the infrastructure will go up. You can't be having 10,000 switches in your data center to connect the network. You will have one server, very heavy one, and software defined network over there.
Absolutely.
So from that point of view, obviously all those threats which we are facing in application would now layer down to the network layer.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is what I feel.
I think, yes, I think there should be, like Aman said in the previous discussion, like for everything, you cannot do it in ad hoc way. There should be a strategy, there should be an architecture, there should be what right tools how to use, what is the right governance, right policies, all these things required for the overall, I think, the cybersecurity related.
And just to extend one more minute of my talk, what Mainak said, And a process-oriented person or a process owner only knows what he has to do to keep the business running.
Correct.
And so that is the reason why he also doesn't have a priority. It's a very old example which I would like to give. Put in front of a business owner that this is the feature which market has been waiting for last 2 months. We have developed it, but it has got some small security vulnerability. To fix that, I need another 15 days. Can I release this feature after 15 days? 99.9% the business owner is going to say, you release this feature today and then fix it. You want to reach the market, that's all.
I think it's like in 90s we started in India the wave of quality and knowledge management. I'm sure you see that knowledge intensive industries, right? I think the similar drive is required for cybersecurity, data privacy with the same rigor. I think like one of you said, security is everybody's responsibility. It's not just CISO or it's not just only business owner. That's why we used to say about the quality, right? Thank you. So, Mike, other question to all of you, maybe you can read within 30 seconds. What do you think in 2021 the security priorities for India and in general? And in specific, do you see any role of DevSecOps in this whole setup in 2021? Yeah, somebody can start. Maybe Aman?
Yeah. So I think if over 2021, a lot of organizations are going to continue their focus on the cloud adoption, strengthening what they have been doing for last 1 year, because a lot of organizations are going to work from home and they are going to leverage this for a long time. They have realized this potential, which was not visible to them earlier. First thing, second thing, I think the zero trust is going to come very big way. And all this setup, SecDevOps takes very major role. If we talk about product companies, where they are very fast moving, very agile, they want to ship new features very quickly. So DevSecOps plays a very key role. Like what kind of change management you have, what kind of rigor you have, what kind of friction you have, what kind of people have access to those kind of issues and need to be solved from the day one itself. Otherwise, at the cost of speed, probably you will compromise the security and whole organization will be at stake, because today business is based on the reputation and trust, nothing else. You will see the trust going down, and a lot of company has gone down and they never come up.
Okay.
So I would like to just add to what Amrish said in a couple of lines. I see three most important things which will be the priority of the organizations. One is because of this phishing, ransomware and phishing attacks going up, I think most of the organization will understand the importance of going for DMARC and implement DMARC into there, which is very today, which is got a very low footprint in the corporate world. The second thing that I see is that organizations are slowly trying to understand as to is defending ourselves or preventing an attack is enough, or we have to do some more study about it. And so I think the next technology that the organizations will look very seriously and adopt will be that of a deception technology. And the third thing that I feel, which is also one of the very important things when it comes to talking about today's world, and that is it will be more from the point of view of an automated systems for awareness sessions and all that. So e-learning and EdTech kind of solutions will be highly adopted. So you don't have to set up a training room, you don't have to set up a virtual meet, you don't have to take the attendance. You simply put the sessions on the web and ask people to attend it. Whether they attended or not will be clearly understood, because the solutions are such, the kind of solutions which are built itself tells you even whether the person is attentive or not. I mean, it will take the video of the person attending and tell whether he was dosing or he was really attending. So to that extent, that kind of solutions have matured. So I think that is something.
So what about data privacy? I mean, just now we talk about, I mean, my personal feelings, how you can read, or my whatever internal things happening.
So primarily when it comes to talking about data privacy, all said and done, today also all our financial data is lying in hundreds of places, and we are worried about the privacy part. So it just extends to the personal traits, that's all. But
that's it,
to protect data privacy, you have to somewhere violate data privacy.
No, if you say tomorrow your performance appraisal is based on your active participation in the discussion, your honestly. So based on that, all those things may come into picture.
You will be surprised that so many employee productivity monitoring tools are being deployed. How many times
Yes,
you have,
yes.
it is not just logging onto the computer, but how many times you have been actively working. To that extent, it is deployed. And in the same tool, there are also facilities where suddenly if you see someone going behind me, the screen will blank out, even if I'm working. Those kind of advanced features have also come in that. So what you are saying is already started. People have started in a way intruding into the life of the people.
That means we are giving some new crazy ideas to the organizations to accelerate that, it seems. Okay, thank you, Milind. Aman, can you please share your thoughts very quickly? So I have one more interesting question so that we can conclude the panel after yours.
Definitely, Vesar. So you asked for the DevSecOps and you asked for the priorities. So in terms of DevSecOps, definitely I see a value coming out of it, and organization will have to adopt it, because it, in this kind of an agile environment, it shorten your release cycle, and it automatically fixes out your vulnerabilities. It minimize the time frame you require to fix those gaps, and definitely it helps out organization to reach out market very fast and in a secure fashion. So that has to be there, and that will stay. In terms of the priorities, or in terms of the what organizations are going to focus on, what I primarily see is the focus will be around data protection and privacy. Instead of securing the infrastructure, they will focus more on the data, what kind of data is lying, how to protect it, the privacy. So those things will come into focus. Second thing is, industry have been talking a lot about security, but now resiliency will again come into the picture. Now organizations, they have accepted that breach has to happen. Now, unless until they're resilient, their business will not come back soon. So the resiliency will one of the important factor going forward in the coming years. Third is around cyber insurance, again driven with the kind of a threat landscape we are right now in. It's imperative to say, like, there is no absolute security. So organization has to be ready to face the worst, and cyber insurance is something which will help them out there. So that will again be a focus for organization going forward. They will work in terms of using the tools to bring in more automation, to bring more detection and response capabilities, because the soon you can detect any anomaly, the soon you can respond to it, it will help you out in bad situations. So that will be again a focus. And another focus that I see is around user awareness, where they will educate their users, they will give responsibility on each and every user to adopt for it. And probably last thing that I would say is the you can say vendor assessment or third party risk management, because a lot of supply chain attacks have come in these recent times, and now organizations have kept it in a bucket, but now they cannot ignore it going forward. So they're integrating with multiple parties, and definitely along with their own infrastructure, they will look for the security aspect and these partners levels.
All right, very good. Thank you so much, Aman. So my last question for today's session is artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms, blockchain, smart contracts, unmanned vehicles. This is what everybody is talking about. Whatever we spoke till now, probably, I think the cyber security we have been talking for many years. Okay, it got accelerated. There is some security depth created. And IoT also we started talking. But now I think the next 5 years, if you see smart contracts, okay, somebody can hack it. They can change the smart contract. The algorithms can be hacked. Somebody can do something. Then the unmanned vehicles or drones, I can probably throw it into a different direction than what I want. Or it can rob. We don't know. Some of the videos we have seen, to what extent they are true or not. The drone robbers, right? So what do you think in the next 3 to 5 years? What is the preparedness and what needs to be done in these areas? Anybody can take the lead.
In my view, I think if we talk about drones, this kind of see, AI/ML is the most abused word today. We talk about any technology, any vendor, the first they start talking about my product is AI/ML enabled. And this fact also, because today you cannot think of any security technologies which is not leveraging the power of AI/ML. We're coming to this most advanced this kind of setup what you talked about. Probably there are 3-4 things. One is that these things are made by considering some of the security features, not most of the security features. because there is no baselining today. If you talk about any standards for this drone and this kind of what we talked about is does not exist. I know that there are some certain task groups have been formed to have those kind of standards and hardenings and those kind of stuff, but that is still work in progress. And if we talk about people as a user, if you remember 3 years back, Amazon wanted to do drone delivery in India and government has denied it due to various reasons. Because they are not ready as a citizen and probably they foresee a lot of issues coming out rather than it is solving the problem. So what are we talking about? Probably
the ATR, right? The ATR related things, the flying zones and all those things may come.
Yeah, multiple issues.
Competitors, I think, in US already doing autonomous cars or autonomous type of door delivery vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So those are all very dangerous, right? If somebody hack and if they probably on the road, they can create some havoc, right? I mean, we don't know really.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a long way to go, but in general,
yes. I think the product may be ready, but ecosystem is not ready to support it.
absolutely, that's the point.
Electric vehicles, correct. So you buy electric vehicles, but you don't know whether ecosystem is ready. But after 5 years, you will see people are buying more electric vehicles because the ecosystem will be ready. Okay.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. The concept is ready. It is only demonstration is being done. People are using it. It is productionized at a large scale, not yet.
Okay.
Because everyone knows that we are not yet ready.
So I will make a specific thing, Aman, probably if you look at the smart contracts or algorithms, do you see there is a need for a third-party audit to make sure that they are secure?
Definitely, VSR. See, we somehow it has been there in past, and but now it is more exaggerated. Like the technology has always stayed away, ahead than the security aspect. We have been struggling to meet this pace. And the same thing is happening here as well. Whether we talk of the adoption of the blockchain, the smart contracts, all these automation, these auto-driven vehicles and all these things. So as Amrish rightly said, that there are no security standards for it. Like you have something for your ISO or something for this, but again, these are heterogeneous environment. The different protocols are used by different vendors. They don't talk to each other. They don't have a standard mechanism of implementing the same security controls. So how exactly you will bring a baseline? So that is very important. And then the governance factor will come in. So let's say if a auto-driven vehicle hits a person, whom will you penalize?
Absolutely.
The legal aspect is there. So governance has to be there. So like Milind said, that we are very much open to accept the technology in terms of ease or in terms of like bringing value to the customer or to the own employees or to the society. But the governance or the security aspect, that always stays behind. So we have to work on it. And the review, the third party audits and all those things definitely help us there. Because it's not that no one is working on it. People are working on it.
Yes.
We as a technology provider are working on a product. So it is important for us to take help from those experts who are already into that field. Take their help. Will mature your product.
Sure. Thank you, Aman. Mainak, any thoughts how this artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, smart contract, unmanned vehicles? Would you please share very quickly what are the precautions to be taken to safeguard against the attacks, threats?
So AI and ML, as I understand, is basically an outcome of some written logics, okay, which has been written by someone, okay. So the main essence. So we also use a lot of AI and ML products, okay, on various layers of our organization, okay. What needs to be really think about is first is false positive eradication. We should be knowing that whatever we are getting, okay, from these particular products, okay, it needs a scrutiny, okay. We cannot just blindly take it and adopt it. Second thing,
Yeah. Okay. So Milind, could you please conclude what you think of this? The whole
ML and AI, I don't prefer calling AI and ML. I always call ML and AI because It is like unless until you don't have a good machine learning platform and it doesn't work properly, using artificial intelligence over the data collected makes no sense, to tell you very frankly. So first and foremost thing is, when you look from machine learning point of view, it has to learn. The whole objective of it is that it has to self-learn. And for it to self-learn, it has to be exposed to everything that is happening. Earlier, when machine learning solutions were coming in, people said that it would take 3 to 4 months to do the learning. And when they saw the customer reaction saying that 3 to 4 months, I'm going to see nothing, suddenly that period dropped down to 8 weeks. And now some of them claim that their solution are so good that it can learn in 3 weeks. I asked them one question: how can something be learned in 3 weeks if my half yearly report and annual report or annual transactions are going to be away 8 months or 9 months? It is not the same thing. Take, for example, if someone has to do a machine learning on the tax payment system, then you have to wait for the first advance tax date to come. If it is 3 months away, it is 3 months away. You can't just learn that in 3 weeks, what is going to happen after 3 months. So that is where I think there is a big gap, and the solution providers are trying to tempt the people by saying that machine learning period is so small. And again, it leads to one more chain of catastrophe, because machine learning has not happened properly. And then that is all blamed onto the solution, saying that machine learning solution will not work.
Sure.
Artificial intelligence. Now, there's a difference between artificial intelligence. Many people think that logical intelligence is artificial intelligence. Logical intelligence is what you program, where someone sits, breaks his head, and puts every possible condition into it. It is a decision support system. The banking fraud management system, the credit card usage system are all logical intelligence. You can't be having a credit card usage in India and US with a half an hour gap. Is something which is a logical thinking. Machine learning has adopted to the system, has learned a lot of things about the system, created certain patterns, and system has to, which is called as artificial intelligence, has to use those patterns and logically think what is to happen. So from that point of view, I think maturity curve is far away, according to me, though people mention a lot of things. Blockchain is a very strong algorithm. I mean, I am absolutely not concerned about the smart contracts, to tell you very frankly. It's a very bold statement, but I would like to make it with confidence that blockchain is a very, very strong platform.
So that will become one of the important technologies for improving security.
Yes,
and tamper-proof. So I think
if deployed properly, not deployed because everyone is deploying blockchain. So I have to find some use case to deploy the blockchain. Is not the way to go about it.
Sure.
Someone should be able to say, I don't have any blockchain use case.
Sure. So thank you so much. I think it's a wonderful discussion. We touched upon the hybrid environment, remote and remote working, and also the distributed workforce, the hybrid cloud environments and edge computing, then COVID, COVID-19, and what all the security threats emerged, especially I think during COVID-19, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, and also we talk about some of the rogue countries really trying to hack, and what all the precautions needs to be taken. Out of all these things, what I think I could conclude here is we must have a great strategy, cybersecurity strategy, and architecture, the governance, the policies, and extraordinary training to the different stakeholders to make sure that they adhere with that, and there should be a compliance checks should be there, whether audits or whatever we talk about. And it's like a journey. It's everybody's job. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful ideas and suggestions and inputs. And we'll conclude this.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.